on-site remediation is one of their expensive options. So Velsicol, of course, does not want to do that. You can start by asking that. You can start by asking if there were proper testing and assessments done on the water and the soil. We do know that according to EPA and TDEC regulations, you have to have two different groups, environmental assessment groups, test your water and your soil. We do know that Velsicol's way around this was to have their laboratory in Memphis do it, and then fire those guys and set up a different group called the Memphis Environmental Assessment Testing. So it's in essence the same people doing the same testing, and that was one way that they got around it. And that's a great question as to why TDEC didn't jump on that one. Another question, they're the primary responsible party for the residue hill. And if you've lived in this area, you know that residue hill is, in essence, unusable. And what they did was they put a cap on it. There was no liner in place, which means that it's possible that those contaminants continue to leak into our groundwater. We do know through TDEC that random testing shows certain spikes during high rain and flood in residue hill. And that was one spot that Velsicol was responsible for cleaning up. So if that was their answer for there, I can't imagine what the 40 acres is going to look like in, say, 10 to 20 years. They also have put an asphalt top on it, and that was one option for their 4 alternatives for this site. And we know that it cracked and is now leaking tar. So by soil, if asphalt's not going to stop it from coming up, then who's to say soil's not going to stop it from coming up?
But it continues to leach.
Yeah, it continues to leach. I mean, the option would be a liner, and then cap it. But even that's not really solving your problems. I mean, if you want to have this, from a real estate aspect, if you want to have this usable land again and it not get bought up by the city and turned into a park, then it needs an on-site cleanup. I mean, the soil needs to completely be cleaned up, and they have the capability to do that, and then put it back on the site. We know, and why are they allowing it to go into our sewer system? Why are they allowing a straight pipe into the Chattanooga Creek when it is an impaired creek still? I mean, it was a Superfund site. EPA said they're done with the cleanup, but because of its impairment, it is illegal to dump anything into that creek until it gets to a healthy state. So Vesicol's permit for that has expired, so they just continue to dump it into the creek, and you can actually see a picture of it on stopvelsicol.com. These are all legitimate questions to raise to TDEC without really, stepping on their toes and just being outraged. I mean, this is an informative discussion between you and this department. This is going to go beyond Alton Park. It's going to go into all of Chattanooga. I mean, when you're dealing with draining into the Tennessee River, this is now a state problem. So then you can ask why, it can go, why TDEC is allowing them to take the cheaper alternative. What is the reasoning behind it? There really is none from what we can look at, especially with their history of cleanup. We see from other, there are other plants in different states, and heck, right in Memphis, that they do not do proper cleanup. The Department of Justice has come in and had to step up for EPA because EPA couldn't get them to do what they're supposed to do. So why would we expect that a $1.9 million cover-up would actually solve this problem? I mean, we can't. So we know that it's because of the pesticides that they produce. We can't relate it to specifically Velsicol, but we do know that some of the chemicals that they have created and produced are known carcinogens and have caused major health problems. So you mix all those up together, we don't even know what kind of, mess we're making. And to allow it to just be dumped into the river is a huge injustice for all of us. So those are some things that can be raised to TDEC, and they will have to answer it. And Velsicol will have to answer it. But it will at least buy time. And that's all we've done since 2009, is sit here buying time. you know, for them to what looks like, you know, inevitably make the wrong decision. But I think if we have enough people outraged, we can do what Memphis did and make them clean up this land.
Isn't one question why TDEC would allow nothing?
Well, they're not allowing nothing. It is an option. It is an option. This cleanup is an option. But then we're getting into Tennessee's environmental policy.
Yeah.
I mean, I was on the campaign to stop Olin Chemical from, you know, releasing mercury into the Wassee River, and it seems like 8 years later, we finally got them to do it after they had already turned every other plant that they owned into a non-mercury producing plant except Tennessee, because it's cheaper to pay the fines than it is to do it correctly. They had the technology to do it, and they continued doing it this way because of our environmental policies as a state, you know. And if you really want to attack all of these guys, you're going to have to change policies, which means you're going to have to write your state representatives and tell them that this is not acceptable statewide. And that's, I mean, this should go beyond just Roger Donovan at TDEC. You need to be, you know, contacting your state representative, your councilman, anyone that has an ear that is willing to have some power to do something about this, because it's ridiculous that they just kind of do nothing and choose to do nothing at this point. And when EPA, you know, said Chattanooga Creek is a Superfund site, but they never once dealt with the watershed, the flood zone. Well, yeah, we cleaned up the creek, but what about all the land around it that had these industries sitting on it that continue to pollute the creek? You know, it goes beyond just this one little creek. And to really, like, clean it all up, you're going to have to address all of it, you know. And should Velsicol be a Superfund site? Many people think
What's a Superfund site?
It is under CERCLA, under which is, you get on the priority list of the top pollutants, and of course that's probably one reason Chattanooga doesn't want to do that, because we've already had one Superfund site. Why would you want another one? But what that does is allow for EPA to do proper cleanup on it, and until that gets done, TDEC can just let them clean up as best as they will and deal with it later. But once Velsicol is done, they're done. You can't go back and get them. It's like double jeopardy. If they don't do it now, then that's it. They don't ever have to do it.